Hi everyone, the Mature Simmer here. Welcome back to my generational farming farm here on Northwest Mecklenburg. So here for the last mow of the year, so last full year, at least the collection and everything coming up. So in between this video and the last episode, gone ahead as you would have expected. I collected the grass. I also did have to fertilize and also lime and do some sampling. I think I was showing some of that. So definitely a pretty busy in between, more than I had expected, certainly. Had a bit of a challenge fitting it in, was really struggling even to try to get in here and get this done. You can see time is running kind of late, so I'm starting to wonder what day it's really supposed to be, because now I'm kind of worried they're gonna like show up and sink before I'm done. But obviously I've been operating on the time frame because I knew yesterday was September. And so obviously I knew at some point today would be October, but I was pretty sure that we were talking about, like it was into late September yesterday. Like I still had 12 hours left to like 8 o'clock last night, and it's not 12 hours later this morning, so the fact that we're 16 hours later is just a bit confusing and disconcerting, I guess, to say the least. Let me see here. If I turn this on, yeah, I think this is kind of where I was at. So we'll get this down here. That should hopefully then work. And that's, looks like, yeah, where I was. Maybe. So maybe I'll go over one more. I'm not sure. I suppose I can. Because if I look at where I am on my mini-map, it does seem a bit like I could be one more over. I thought I set myself up the way I normally do, but perhaps not. Alright, so it looks like one of my silos is already out of space. The others are coming up in about 20,000 liters. So I'm kind of really at the point where I need to start offloading stuff, or I'm going to have a bit of a problem. So, not sure. Maybe I'll just leave this. I don't know that, you know, the extra 20,000 or might even be 30,000, but just not sure that I really am in that desperate of a need for it. Alright. I'm always kind of a little leery as I go through here, because I know I've got some corners to go around and so forth, and obviously don't want to leave things laying around. So the other thing we've started to see, I don't know how it's impacting the entire competition altogether, but there are, I think, at least 2 people on our server that have dropped out of generational farming now because of the new enhanced realism farming servers that have come online. And they've started doing that, and they're feeling the amount of work, it's too much to do both. So I can certainly understand that. You know, it's disappointing to see people change up at this point. I don't know if we're going to have further attrition with people who go to the other calendar. Now, the other calendar should slow things down somewhat. So if it's someone who's already had a farm like myself and then decides to step to the 24-day calendar, they, you know, might have more time then, so it would seem to have the opposite effect. But right now, you know, they're still kind of going through. and figuring out what they're going to do as far as the changes that are within FSN and that we're kind of in the midst of right now. So the other piece related to Farming Simulator and FSN that I have is obviously my main farm. I have been once again kind of having that on hiatus for a while as we waited for these changes to play out, because one of the things that was happening was server renumbering, and it wasn't entirely clear what kind of impact that was going to have on server availability. But at this point we are past that, so I am going to be able to this spring jump in. So we are not renumbered from server 212 to server 151. So that has happened, I don't know, 3-4 days ago. So it was just too late. I think the first day, like, we could get back on, like, once the announcement was made that, hey, the server's getting renumbered, and when I went and looked for it, I think we were on November already, so it was too late to try to plant. And once again, even if I had been able to plant in the fall, I think it's important to recall that you're basically talking about not being able to harvest until the same time period the following year. So, like, our harvest window would be no different if I plant in the spring now versus if I had planted. The only difference might be a couple days of, am I in the early part of the harvest window or the latter part of the harvest window, but I'll be able to harvest at this point. So it's February on the server now. I think March, April for sure we'll be able to plant, so I would anticipate within the next couple days that I'll be back on there and starting to go ahead and start moving. The piece that's waiting there, however, is right now auctions are off, and I'm hoping they're coming back. I don't know that we've really seen anything that says they're not, because there's several of us, I think, that would like some other land still. I need the 2 little pieces to build my farmyard, so that would be a bit important. And others are waiting because they'd like new pieces of land. So we've got a new FM that had joined shortly before stuff started happening, and they got their home plot, which is a tiny little piece of land, but they then now are unable to expand at all because auctions have ceased. Alright, so I think I'm around here. So at this point, given that I've redone everything, I think I should be pretty capable of moving along and just having a very simple end of year here, given that I'm on a 3 cycle. I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. 3 mow cycle per year, so that I mow 3 times, because that's definitely playing out kind of as I expected. I have about 1.8 million or so in the silos right now, which means I'm kind of hitting that 900,000 plus that I was expecting versus the 700,000 or 800,000 that I was getting otherwise. So this is definitely keeping me within around the same time, or around the same yield, so that's definitely helpful. But more importantly, it backs off the pressure a little bit. So that will allow me to do what I'd like to do, because I'm just kind of trying to find time to do other things, and it's been a bit of a challenge as I've tried to kind of recalibrate and get myself to a point where everything's moving as I would like. Right. I think I'm going to be okay here on this end without 3. If I need to change that, obviously I will. But at this point, I'm just trying now to get the mowing done. I'm in the same kind of position as I was in the last mow, which is, at minimum, I want to get things mowing so that it's growing today. And then if it takes me a little longer to pick up, which it did last time. I think I was 1 or 2 days after I had mowed before I finally picked things up, which is okay because obviously even with that I'm already running into the fact that silos are hitting capacity. So that has worked out well, but at this point that gives you everything I can give you at this point, farming simulator related. What you should start seeing is the other series returning and getting things going. Just because of the time frame too, I've also missed one of the VIP series, which is a single player series that I have been running for a while. So fear not, that is not vanished. I just had missed it because of being on vacation for 8 days, and was also hoping to get feedback. Once again, kind of indicates exactly what I've said, is we just don't have a large enough community at this point that there's enough people watching videos to provide any kind of feedback. So I had looked for feedback last time, hoping that with being on vacation and so forth, I'd get some information, and fortunately not a single comment. So I'm just going to have to make a decision on which way I want to go in that series of the 2 options I had on the table, and go ahead and go rather than continue to keep waiting. So, but most importantly, you're going to see the return of Misty Hills, and probably the first episode is going to be pretty close to what you've seen here on Generational Farming. It'll post up there pretty quickly afterwards because I know I've got a gap in content there, and I certainly would like to get that moving again. And once I'm productive on the farm, I should have some content coming through that starts getting the every other day of farming simulator videos that aren't real time coming up again. So hopefully the channel's starting to get back on track now that we're past some of the changes that have caused some delays in me being able to actually generate some content for you guys. So that's the situation in all its glory. I'm going to continue finishing up the mowing here, picking things up, and I guess what I can take a peek at here so you have information is I'm likely going to need to start to sell some silage today, because otherwise I'm again running the risk of not getting everything processed before the winter is over, and obviously I'd prefer not to do that. Alright, so yeah, silage is at 173, and we are here. November's going to go up a bit. It's really December when things kick in. The challenge is I can do 140 a day, so that means 280 in 2 days, 420 in 3 days. So if I leave the silos full, this is kind of the thing I always run into as a challenge. If I leave the silos full up until December, say, and don't let anything start processing, I can only get through 420,000 liters. So if I take a peek here at what I've got, well, that would actually be okay. So I may end up doing that. I may just go ahead, since I have the capacity in the silos, to really wait until the best sale dates of the year. I may do that, and then, obviously what that turns into is I'm trying to sell things still in February before we're back in March and prices are starting to drop and so forth. But I'll take a look at that. I'll think that through. I'm going to have some time, obviously, as I just sit here and get the work done. There's a lot of running on GPS and so forth. This is kind of the one piece that I need to do here, where it has a little bit of thought getting around this drain or whatever it is in the field. But at this point I'm going to run up down for a while, and then when I'm picking up I'm doing the same thing. But I should have plenty of capacity, because I am only getting about I shouldn't say only, but I'm getting about 300,000 liters or so off the field into each silo, just dividing it up evenly to get to the 900,000. So the capacity is 565, so if I've got under 100, I have enough room to put the full 300 in without suddenly being stuck with crop in the field. So there's not necessarily a reason to rush and sell today. I'm over the average, which is really around 170, but it would be nice to have a little bit more if I could, and even if I start selling tomorrow, that would be better. So I'll figure that out, but I'll go from there. And I will, at this point, wrap this up, and I will see you next time.